Hi there, everyone. I'm glad to be talking to Brandi Étoile once again, all the way over in Texas, USA. And we're going to, before we start, just remember to subscribe to the channel in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And then without further ado, yes, Brandi, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me. I noticed my son just woke up and came out, but we can try to push through for a few minutes if he doesn't terrorize.
Okay, well, yes, sorry, I was a bit late there because I had a few technical problems. Um, yeah, and we're going to talk about the riots happening over in your part of the world in the USA. I mean, normally South Africa, well, we've got a lot of riots here all the time, but nobody seems to take much notice about those. But it's kind of global news, what's going on in the US at the moment. So we know that George Floyd died after having been arrested by the police there in Minneapolis. And now, since then, there's just been a whole spate of violence in Minneapolis and several other cities. So, well, what do you make of
Right.
it, Brandi?
Well, I don't know all the details of his killing um, yet. I've been very busy and I haven't done much research on exactly how he was killed and who is responsible. I know that at least one police officer has been charged with third-degree murder. Um, but if I'm to judge by past um, things of this nature, um, there have been some where they were unjustified, and the police officers involved did deserve to be charged. In one example, a man was shot in the back while he was running away. The police officer then ran over and threw his taser down beside him, to make it look as if he had taken it. That is blatant, um, trying to frame him and murder. So, he deserved to be charged. In other cases, such as Michael Brown and a few others, they were not what the media portrayed them to be. They were violent criminal thugs who were terrorizing, their neighborhoods. The mainstream media put up photos of him that made them look like children. Michael Brown was no child. He was almost 7 foot tall. He's on video strong arming a store clerk, robbing him. And, it's been proven that the hands up, don't shoot, all of that drama that the media overplayed, it was untrue. It was false. And I'm very upset, by the looting and the rioting and by the mainstream media calling this protest. It is not useful to loot and riot. And the places that these people who only make up 14% of the population in America are looting and rioting and destroying are mostly Black-owned businesses. What does that accomplish for Black people? Nothing. You're making it worse.
I actually saw that some of these shops and so on, they're putting up signs saying black-owned business, with the implication that the rioters should only loot white-owned businesses. It's
Right.
kind of quite,
They don't care.
yeah, but they do loot them anyway.
I saw something interesting right before I came on with you, and I was watching Fox News, and President Trump has officially declared Antifa a domestic terrorist organization because he feels they are responsible for a lot of this violence in the streets. And as you probably know, Antifa is largely funded by George Soros. This is an inconvenient truth, but a truth nonetheless. And a lot of Americans are very happy about this because these people have been assaulting people, terrorizing colleges, destroying businesses and entire cities. And it needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped. And I'll just say one thing. There was a Nigerian police officer who murdered a white woman just because she was white. And I don't remember the white community looting and burning everything. He ended up getting 12 and a half years in prison for that. But no one was out in the streets tearing up anyone's businesses. It's not useful. It's not a useful tool to get your point across. It's bad for the economy, and we're already suffering.
Yeah, I also saw, there was an autopsy report saying that George Floyd didn't die of asphyxiation. Now, apparently they're going to have another autopsy about it. So it seems that already, it's not as clear cut, the whole thing, as it is made out to be in the media and by the rioters.
Right, and he did have a criminal record. I'm not saying that that is grounds for murder or anything like that, but he was no angel. He had a past, which many of us do, but the media likes to portray it as something completely different. And even Fox News now, the things they were playing today just made me furious because they were reciting things that they know to be untrue, such as the death of Michael Brown. And I will just say that the number of Blacks killed by police officers each year in America is very small. And the reason we know that is because we know every one of their names. Every one of their names. And what we're doing is we are demonizing police officers. They do not wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go and kill a Black person today. No one in the world can ever make me believe that these police officers wake up and that is their plan for the day. I don't believe that. I believe the majority are good. There probably are a few bad apples, and we should call them out. I'm a firm believer in calling out injustices and owning up to injustices done no matter of race, right? Because it takes away credibility from injustices being done to your race when you deny legitimate injustices that are done to others, right? So in order to move on, we acknowledge, we try to move forward, and don't just ignore it or make it like it's not an issue. But police are being hindered from doing their jobs, okay, because they are afraid. There was a woman, I don't remember what state, a police officer. She was almost beaten to death because she was afraid of what would happen if she used force against the guy that was beating her to a pulp. I mean, her facial bones were broken. Her nose was broken. I mean, she was almost beaten to death because she was afraid to defend herself because of this.
Now, the guy who was Michael Brown, was he killed in Baltimore or was it in Ferguson?
I believe it was Baltimore. He's the man that supposedly tried to take the cop's gun, which after looking at all the evidence, I completely believe that. The media put up a picture that made him look like he was a teenager. And then we see video of, footage of him just grabbing cigarettes and whatever he wanted out of a store and strong-arming the clerk. He was a violent thug. But I believe it was Baltimore. And those riots, I don't know if you've seen the video of them, but it was terrifying because you literally hear people screaming, there's a white lady, pull her out of her car and beat her ass. I mean, I'm quoting what cameras caught, I mean, innocent people driving down the street. And I'm sorry, but if it's my truck driving down the street, listen, I remember the LA riots and all of that. I'm not stopping. If you get in front of my vehicle and it's a mob and you're trying to pull me out of my vehicle, you're going to be underneath my vehicle, and damn the consequences.
Yeah, sure. And after that, I saw that in Baltimore, the police decided to kind of withdraw from the black areas in Baltimore, and that led to a rise, an increase in crime, because the police was afraid now to do their work in Baltimore, in those particular
That
neighborhoods. So it had a detrimental effect on the whole community afterwards.
It was the same with Chicago. Obama and Eric Holder, they took police out of those communities because the bad people in those communities said, we don't want them in our neighborhoods. The white police officers, they don't understand our neighborhoods. Well, guess what happened? They got worse. And now people are begging for the police to come back in, because there are good people that that just happen to live in those neighborhoods. There was a grandmother, her 3-year-old granddaughter was sitting at the table doing her homework, and she was shot dead in a drive-by shooting by a stray bullet. And this lady came out on the news and spoke out against Black Lives Matter, and she just let them have it, saying, why are you not marching for my granddaughter? She was innocent. And the Obama administration did so much damage to the Black communities here in America and for race relations here than any other administration. And you would think it would be the opposite. But I feel that it's a real shame that that was our first Black president. I think that Herman Cain or Ben Carson or someone else would have done uh, that title of being the first Black American president justice. And Obama just shamed it.
Yes, you're quite right there, talking about Eric Holder, and yes, and the kind of opinions that he expressed in the media as well. He was very critical of white people as well. But it's now led to a real crisis in the US, and it's spreading all over to a number of cities. And you spoke about race relations. I mean, until now, do you think race relations were fairly good in the US before this George Floyd incident and the riots sparked by it?
I can't speak for Black Americans, and I don't assume to do that. I can say I felt things were getting better. I felt they were really bad under Obama. Um, but I have felt lately that they're getting better. And then this, I feel like, has taken us back. But the problem is the media making excuses, lying, not telling the full truth, um, and just egging people on to commit bad behavior, criminal activity. There's no excuse for it. And it should be called what it is.
Okay, well, I think that's summing it up very nicely. As you say, it's criminal behavior and it should be called that. And thank you very much for talking to us once again. And I want to remind our viewers, to subscribe to the channel and look out for our next video on some other very interesting topic. Thank you very much for watching. And thank you, Brandi, for talking to us once again.
Thank you for having me, Dan. It's always a pleasure. And thank you to your viewers for watching.
Thanks.